Hi, and welcome back to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel, and we're here at MetroEast Community Media in Gresham. We cover the whole Portland area, and tonight we're going to be talking with a couple of people representing a specific area of Portland. That's the Lents neighborhood, and some really exciting new things that are going on there. We're going to be talking about Green Lents, and to start it off, we're going to be talking with Jolene Littlejohn, who is a co-founder and board member of Green Lents. Thanks for coming here today.
Thanks for having me.
And Ellison Hilkiah. And you are the Orchard Project Coordinator, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
So tell me first maybe a little bit about Green Lents. What exactly is that?
Definitely. We are a nonprofit, community-based organization. It started in 2009 by a few neighbors. We just wanted to sort of make some changes in the neighborhood and create a really thriving and sustainable community. And to do that, we wanted to, just support environmentally based projects in the neighborhood. So things like the community tool library, the local sharing economy that's been started in the neighborhood, as well as other healthy watershed projects like pollinator monitoring and planting of plants and things like that.
I've actually been quite impressed with the Lents neighborhood because that community is really tight. I mean, they really are. More than a lot of the neighborhoods in the area, they are always in the news for doing some community-based project, and I think that's great. That's what we need. People need to be, involved in their own community. So, I see what you're doing here, but you're involved in all sorts of areas. But now there's a new project coming up, correct?
Yes.
Allison, what is that all about?
Well, the idea is to have an orchard that's a community orchard. People might be familiar with the idea of a community garden.
Right.
Where
everybody has their own plot or something
you
like
don't
that.
own the land that it's on. It's public land,
Right.
but then you get to come and garden there.
Which is great.
So, yeah, it is. In this case, it would be an orchard, and people would be able to come, help take care of the trees, and then help share in the harvest of the fruit. What's a little bit different about it or unique is that it's not only going to be an orchard. This 1/3 acre site that we have, we envision it also creating habitat for pollinators, habitat for wildlife, and a green space that people can just come and enjoy. It's located right across a little gravel road from the Springwater Trail, which is a place that is open for pedestrians and bicycles. It's a very nice paved trail.
It could be a destination,
Yeah,
people
for
come
sure.
along the trail there. So, how do you begin doing something like this? And what are your plans? How does this work?
Well, so far, we have permission from the city to use the lot. That was a key piece. The city owns this land.
Oh, they own it. Okay. So are they donating it, or do they still own that?
They will
then?
lease it.
They'll lease it. Okay.
To Green Lents for purposes of creating this orchard.
Okay.
And the nearby neighbors, the people who live right adjacent to the orchard site, it was a process of talking to them, seeing if they would be open to this particular use of the land, because Green Lents is really committed to only doing things in the neighborhood that neighbors want.
Well,
so it was.
I think that's a good goal.
Although the city said, sure, go ahead. That wasn't enough for us.
If you got pushback from everybody in the community, or a good portion of them, then I imagine you wouldn't have gone forward.
Right.
Exactly.
Neighbors instead have been very supportive of the idea. And then, of course, we needed to do some fundraising. So we wrote a grant, and we were awarded funding.
Nice.
Right. It's very exciting, which will cover about 1/3 of the total cost. And then we also have some commitments for donated supplies or materials, and then people who have already come up to us and said, hey, I want to help. So volunteers as well.
So I assume you always need more volunteers,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
course.
That's a big goal of the orchard, really, is to
yeah.
create a project that people can come together and work on together. So the more
I
the merrier.
assume most of those people, most of the volunteers would come from that community, the Lents community. But if somebody, maybe somebody is a renter and they don't have a space, they want to get in and dig or help or something, they just want to be involved, could they come and say, I'd like to volunteer?
Yeah, there's no requirement that you have to live in Lents to be a part of the project. It's led by people in Lents, but anybody's welcome. And there might be people with particular gifts and skills to contribute that we need.
Well, and even, that could even be, PR kind of stuff, or going and talking to the schools about, what we're growing here after you get it going. I imagine there's all sorts of opportunities.
And we have a couple of volunteers that are involved in the project that are not local to Lents but live in the southeast area. And they're really focused on ecological design. And so, for example, one of the particular skills that can be contributed to.
Yeah, that's great. Can you tell me about the Lents area, what what that area is? I mean, like what the borders are, do you know?
Yeah.
It's a large neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's one of the larger
know
ones.
that it is.
neighborhood. Definitely.
So-
It goes from Southeast 82nd Avenue to 111th, I believe. I think.
Somewhere right around there?
Somewhere around there. There's an overlap. And then from the county line on the south side up to Powell Boulevard, I believe,
Yeah,
on the north side.
that is a big area.
It's like a city in and of itself. It's
yeah,
pretty big.
it is. Yeah, it could be incorporated all by itself. So tell me you'll have the orchard then, and what is the next step? I mean, how do you get going? Because have you broken ground on the area, or how does that work? What do you do?
Not yet.
Okay, so this is really just in the new stages, right?
Yeah, we just got, like Allison was talking about, we just got feedback from the neighbors that they're very much in support of the project. Just got our first funding award from...
So you just got that recently?
we just did. And then, so now is just try to remove all the invasive blackberry that's on the site.
Ooh, yeah, those are hard.
That's the first step.
You need some people to get out there and help get rid of that?
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of
when
work.
the berries
It's
get in
very
there,
satisfying work, though. You can make such a visible difference when you're done, before and
if
after.
You do it, and
Gain a few
berries
muscles.
are there.
You know.
Feed yourself while you're pulling them out of there.
Right. So blackberry removal would be the next step.
Okay.
And
Now
then-
you have community meetings with people to plan this out. What are you doing as far as working with your volunteers?
Yeah, so there's opportunities to volunteer in very specific aspects of the project. So if someone's skilled in graphic design, for example, they could help us in developing material that we can pass out. If someone is skilled in landscaping, or if someone is skilled in
Berry removal.
fundraising and grant writing.
Yeah.
But if someone's just interested in the whole project and would just love to get involved in the oversight of all phases of the project, they could join our coordinating team that's comprised of people with expertise in different areas.
Okay.
And we're going to be having a meeting coming up on Wednesday, July 23rd.
Okay.
And people would be welcome. It's going to be held at the Community Tool Library that Jolene just mentioned. That's another one of the Green Lents projects in the neighborhood.
Tell me briefly about that, if you don't mind, about the tool library. That's become kind of a popular trend in a lot of communities, and seems to be really widely cherished in those communities.
Yes. So the Community Tool Library it's like a book library. So you come in and you need to, mow your lawn, or you need to do a special project that
Requires a
big
sander,
tool.
electric sander, or
yeah. And so you don't necessarily want to buy that tool, or you don't necessarily need to buy that tool, and so you can come check it out for a week. And we have all different things, including do-it-yourself workshops and books and things to try to share with your peers. I don't know how to do this. You
But I
don't
know
know how to do that.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
kind of like a barter system almost, it's like,
bit, yeah.
I'll share my skills with you.
Right. That's where the community comes in.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, so the tool library has, we tend to meet there outside of the tool library when it's nice, and share some skills and things. So people are definitely welcome on Wednesday, July 23rd at 6 o'clock.
to 8 p.m.
Yes.
So that's a coordinating meeting. And then who designs this whole orchard? And I mean, who makes those decisions? Do you have a team that does that too, or do you have like a landscape architect, or what?
Well, this coordinating team that we just talked about would be making final decisions,
Okay.
but with input from two different groups. One would be people with professional expertise, but the other group would be the public. So we're hoping to have a public design process so that people in the neighborhood can say, this is what kind of fruit I'd like to see growing here. And so people can come to the public design meetings that we'll be having. And at those meetings, not only can people give input about what they would like to see on the site, but the meetings themselves will be educational. We'll be explaining what the goals of the orchard are and some of the less traditional aspects of an orchard. So we talked about pollinator habitat, for example. People might not realize that we
Something
need
people probably don't think
pollinators for the trees to bear fruit. They have to be pollinated, and so we need those
Something to
pollinator
attract
species.
them? I mean, is that
So native flowers, for example, would attract pollinators that would also service the fruit trees.
And different levels of habitat. So we're looking at what kind of ground cover can we have, what kind of shrubs can we have, what kind of brush layer can we have. That all serves the pollinators as well.
a lot of things that people probably don't think about very much? Are you trying to do mostly native species, or does that come
there's
into
so
it at
many
all?
there's so many edible native species
Yeah,
actually that would complement the fruit trees themselves, wouldn't necessarily
Right,
be native.
right.
But
But
there's
maybe some
native
of the-
thimbleberries, native huckleberries,
Oh, you're getting me hungry.
salmon berries.
Well, so there'll be bushes, there'll be
Mm-hmm.
trees. But how many trees do you think you can get on that, or how many? Do you have any idea how many?
Well, that'll be part of the public design process. It'll be, right, how many people really want to come harvest these trees will determine how many trees we can plant.
So how will that work then? Once this is all done,
Yes.
and and it's going forward, and all the the trees are bearing fruit, then it'll be part of the community to come and harvest them. Do you think you'll have? I mean, do you envision it as being something where there will be certain times when people come and do this, or people just come as they want, or?
We need to have a regular work
Regular
party
schedule.
schedule. For example, it might be the first Saturday of every month, so
Okay,
people can
yeah.
depend on that through the harvest season. And if we plan well, there'll be a 3 or 4 month long harvest season because there'll be a variety of things
Right, yeah,
coming
this
in.
one and then this one.
Right,
So, yeah.
ripening.
And then there's the people that will come and glean it off the
Pop by,
ground, and
yeah.
the fallen fruit, 'cause there's always going to be that. And oh, this is
And
gonna
if
be
the
an
orchard
exciting project.
generates enough fruit, excess fruit, then we can always donate that to local food banks
Yeah.
because there's a real food access issue in our neighborhood. We mentioned what a large area it is, and yet there are not grocery stores within Lents. There's grocery stores in neighboring areas, like right across
But not
82nd
places
Avenue,
where
for
people
example.
can walk to and get to easily.
The only stores are convenience stores, which aren't
Oh.
necessarily known for produce and a lot of
Well,
healthy
no.
food options.
Yeah. Well, see, that'll be great. Do you envision sometime in the future, perhaps, having classes where you can, teach people how to use some of this food?
Definitely, definitely.
What are we looking at here on this picture?
Well, in this picture, we're looking up 87th Avenue. So the orchard is located between 82nd Avenue and the 205 freeway. And 87th Avenue crosses Flavel, that's the nearest major street, which is up at the top of the picture there. If you see a car go by there, that's Flavel. And then 87th Avenue becomes a gravel road there. And it turns the corner and becomes Malden Court. And so the orchard sits at this intersection between 87th Avenue and Malden Court. And as
Are
you
those
can
all
see,
berries?
that is all
Oh my
blackberry
gosh.
bramble. It's completely overgrown. And right now isn't doing anybody any good, and we hope to change that. It's a dead-end street, so there's just a few residential homes there on Malden Court, and then you're looking at the end of the street. And then on the left of the screen is where the Springwater Trail runs by,
Oh, okay.
which you can't really see at this time of year because there's so much growing there. But many months out of the year when you're going by on the Springwater Trail, you can look right across the road at what will become the orchard. So this is just another view that shows you how big this lot really is. We're very
Yeah.
excited about the size of it and the potential for all the things we want to grow there. And it gets a lot of light. It's a nice southern exposure there, so that'll be good for the fruit trees.
I would think the neighbors probably were happy about this because that means there's not going to be houses growing, built
Yeah,
there.
right.
It's like having a green space behind your house where it's always going to be an orchard, or hopefully will be.
And it will have positive uses. Unfortunately, sometimes when there's open space that's not being constructively used, it ends up being used for people who want to dump illegally their appliances or whatever.
Right.
This area has issues with drug dealing, it has issues with prostitution. But the more that engaged citizens spend time in a place and hang out there, the more the crime tends to go down. So it's really a public safety benefit also.
Yeah, that's great. Are there other orchards, similar projects in other areas that you are modeling this after? I haven't heard of a community orchard like this before.
Well, Portland has a few. The Portland Fruit Tree Project.
Which I am familiar with that.
Okay.
So that is a similar.
It's a similar
thing,
model
yeah.
in that the trees aren't cared for by an individual homeowner.
It is a group,
They're
yeah.
cared for right by the community, and they have volunteers, and they also have an educational mission so people can come and
Right.
learn.
I didn't think about that, yeah, because I am familiar with that.
Yeah.
Are there others in the area too, then
Well, I think you have to go all the way to Seattle to find something like this, in that it incorporates the wildlife habitat and the native plants, and really trying to be more, there's a phrase I've heard called a food forest. So trying to have more like a forest ecosystem where you have ground cover, like Jillian was mentioning, you have trees, you have things of middle height like shrubs,
Right.
but it's all edible or serves medicinal purposes in some
that's
way.
great.
But
Yeah, I
it
can
acts
see-
more like the natural environment, not so much like a traditional orchard where you've
Right.
got trees planted in a row and grass
Right.
underneath.
This will be
and-
more natural. It sounds like it sounds like a great project, and I can see all sorts of ways that the community can use this going forward. We're almost out of time, so tell me, what are the key things that people need to know about this? If they want more information, go to the website.
Yes. They can go to greenlents.org.
Okay.
If they'd like to donate, they can do so on the website. And if they want to like Green Lents on Facebook, then they can continue to get updates about this project, because it is just in the beginning stages, and so it's exciting if you want to get in on the ground floor of something like this.
And it might be a good model for other areas of our city to do the same thing.
Yes, we hope so.
Good. Thank you both so much for being on here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for watching Community Hotline tonight. I think this is a great project. If you're interested, just want more information, want to donate, want to volunteer, you know where to go. We'll have the information on the screen. There's a lot going on in your community. Be sure to get out there, do your volunteer work, and become part of your community too. This is Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel. We'll see you next week.
What local community media is to us is literally our lifeline to what's going on in the lives around us.
The absolute most important thing that happens in your neighborhood.
People's local communities are usually what's most important to them.
Because we're the faces, the smiles, the peoples, and the personalities of the community.
To not only give people a voice, but to have their voice heard.